monohybrid cross, here we are going to discuss the laws of inheritance. Alright. So see here, on the basis of his observation on monohybrid cross, Mendel proposed two general rules, and today we call them principle or laws of inheritance. Do remember, Mendel conducted the experiment. After that, he analyzed the result of the experiment mathematically, right? But not only that, he also theoretically explained the reason for such a mathematical or statistical result, right? But he did not shape those theoretical explanation that he gave. That was not put forward by Mendel in the form of law. Okay, it was not given a shape of law by Mendel. But rather later on, after death of Mendel, when his work was again rediscovered, then another scientist called Karl Lorenz, he actually had put the theoretical explanation of Mendel, and he gave it in the gave it the shape of law. All right, he provided it to us in the form of law. So that's why whatever rules Mendel had put forward, that today is referred as laws of inheritance. All right. So laws of inheritance consist of two laws. One is law of dominance, another is law of segregation. So let us start with law of dominance. So as you know from the monohybrid cross, the conclusion that Mendel drew was that every character of ours is controlled by a discrete unit called factors, right? Every of our character is controlled by factors. Today we call the factors to be genes, isn't it? Now, the factors occurs in pairs. Always the factor would remain in pairs, right? And finally, in a dissimilar pair of factors, only one is able to express and the other does not show its effects. Alright, so that means if in case an organism possesses two dissimilar factors, always one of the factor would be able to express itself. So we will call it the dominant factor, and the one that will not be able to show its effect, that will be known as the recessive factor. Okay, like in the condition capital T small t, where the factor for tallness and dwarfness both are present, the tallness would express itself, capital T would express, but on the other hand the small t for dwarfness, that won't be able to show its effects. Alright, so any such kind of heterozygous condition, we will find only one of the factor will express, other would not. That is what is law of dominance. Alright, so that means in case of a dissimilar pair of factors, one will dominate the other. That's what is law of dominance. Fine. Now, the next is law of segregation. First, try to understand what is the meaning of segregation. Segregation itself means separation. Okay, so what it means, you see, this law is based on the fact that the two factors of a character do not get mixed up or blending, and both the traits are recovered as such in the F2 generation. So in law of segregation, what Mendel first stated is that whenever two factors would remain together, be it similar, be it whenever two factors, basically the two dissimilar factors would remain together, they would not be able to show any kind of mixing or blending. Rather, even after being together, they would behave as discrete units. Okay. Now, during gamete formation, factors of a pair would separate from each other so that a gamete carries only one factor of a character. This ensures purity of gametes. So what basically means, you see, law of segregation, that means law of separation. What here Mendel is trying to state is that two factors when remains together, they do not show any mixing or blending, but during gamete formation, when meiosis will take place, the pairing of the factor will be lost. The pairing will be lost means the two factors will be separated from one another during gamete formation. And because they do not show any mixing or blending, that's why each discrete unit, that each factors, when they move on to the gametes, they will show, or that will prove, the purity of gametes. The gametes will again not show any mixing or blending. They would remain pure in their entity. Alright, so that's what is law of segregation. Now the most important part is that law of dominance, this law is not universally applicable. Okay, it is not universally applicable means the law of dominance will show many of deviations. We'll be discussing the deviations just after this topic. Okay, those are going to be very important for your exam as well. But for law of segregation, this law is universally applicable. Means this law do not show any deviation. It is going to be universally applicable to all organisms. But for this, it's going to show a lot of deviations. Okay, so let's in the next class we'll discuss regarding the deviations to Mendelism, and we'll start with incomplete dominance.